Hey guys, and welcome to Pheas Software. Today I'm going to be doing a disassembly for repair and maintenance on this Double Eagle UTR45. Hey guys, and welcome back. If you do enjoy this content today, please do consider liking, commenting and subscribing, because that interaction really helped me out. And if you do want to support the channel a little bit more, click the join button down below and that will take you to channel memberships. 99 pence a month, totally optional, really appreciated. Custom videos, bloopers and your own giveaways and your private chat in my Discord. And the Linktree link down below in the description will take you to all of my socials, including my Discord. Please feel free to come along and join us. So today then we're going to do a disassembly for repair or maintenance of the Double Eagle UTR45, which I absolutely adore. It is a beast of a gun. I just feel so lovely to hold and use. So first thing, making sure that the magazine is out. So negative thread, usual, just unscrew. The upper is a single piece, but if you want to remove the inner barrel, I'm not going to do it because this is going on to somebody else, but you've got a set of screws here, one under here, one right here, and same set of screws here, and all the inner barrel assembly will just slide forward and out and release out the front for you to tinker with, and that shouldn't be too hard. What we are going to do is more focus on all of this section in the middle. So the front sight and the rear sight are just a little hex head bolt there. So that is a size, that's more like it, a 2.5 sized hex head, just to release that. There we go. And that just comes undone, and that just releases off and lifts off. And there we go, tighten that back down. And the rear one is exactly the same. And then it's actually going to split exactly like an AR does. So I'm just going to push down on the front body pin. I might have to take that off camera to tap it out. So that front body pin obviously took some tapping out first, but it was well wedged in there. I've had to sort of get pliers on to sort of give me enough purchase to let it go. Next thing I'm going to have to do is, I think by the looks of it, I'm guessing some of these screws are going to have to come out as well. And I'm guessing the stock will come off with this one, so let's start with that first. So I've got a size 3 bit here on the back. Ooh, nearly. So remove that. Now that plate has gone loose, and there is our quick change spring system, which is just flat head in, push it in, quarter turn, anti-clockwise. A little bit of wiggling. We've had this before where it just needs a little bit of wiggling just to get it free. There we go, it's coming now. And one. There we go, and it fired it up and out. So there's our rather substantial and beefy spring guide, and there is our spring. Next thing, I'm guessing, let's try the rear body pin, maybe. Just gonna test and make sure it's not any of these torques. So I'm just gonna remove a few of these torques. Does that come off at that point? No. I suspect that first one definitely was. That one definitely was superficial. Leave it out for now because it's two different lengths. Top one was much shorter. These are a little bit longer than what was in the top there. So it does look like it's a little bit looser. So undo these two. Again, same as the bottom two on the other side. Yeah, there we go, look. Instantly we saw that pop forward. So you just lift it up slightly and take it out. So there is our ejection port assembly on two rods, and the rods connect into the back of these two here. This stock assembly then is coming off. What I'll do is I'll extend the stock and remove the stock, and then just feed the wire in. Oh, there it goes. Feed the wire in out if I can. All I'm trying to do is just maneuver the Dean's connector that's inside of here. Just get it down and round all of these obstacles. There we go. To get that out, and that is the stock assembly completely removed. Put that to one side, that plate and that there. Put that to one side a minute, we'll come back to that in a moment. So I'm going to slide out the hop and barrel. So there's our hop unit, which is a turn down to apply hop. There is quite a substantial, there we go, that's fully hop applied, and I didn't have to go anywhere near that to hop 25 BBs. So just turn the hop fully off and we'll open it up and have a look. The barrel itself looks pretty damn clean actually. I'm impressed with that. Or it at least does now. So there's the sort of centralizer for the front of the hop unit. That came off really nicely. I'm going to keep that upside down so that we don't lose the knob. Shorten rubber down a little bit. Rubber looks fairly decent quality. Be careful just peeling that off. So, wow, it is immaculate down there. I'm pretty impressed with that. So I'm just going to slide the hop rubber back on. I'm going to make sure that there we go, there's a groove in the bottom of the barrel, and the rubber has got like a protruding little part that sits in that groove. So it should sit nice and comfortably. And then the groove and the feed tube should be the same way up like that. That should just slide in. And these clips should be pretty much at the back of this gap here, these slots. And that's what the clip itself slots into. Now it should sit all nicely and flush. That should go back in the front, and that is our hop done and dusted. And there is a barrel spring in there, so obviously that keeps it under, and I can locate it. See if we can get it out. Oh, don't want to lose those. So those will just all slide off together, but I'm more interested in getting that barrel spring out. There we go. So there's the barrel spring, and it just sits on that barrel and keeps it pushed nice and snug against the front of the gearbox. And then that just goes back in. Locate the barrel slot, make sure that it goes in, and it should go most of, but not all the way forward. Perfect, that's the upper sorted. Now we can look at the lower. So it's just like a normal AR lower, apart from we've got many different bits. Can I get that? No, not even close. So I'm using a size 2 hex head bit, or Allen key head, to remove that front and back screw from the pistol grip. Again, make sure when you're doing this, you keep all the screws in like a logical order or a logical grouping, so you know where everything's come from. And that is lifting itself up. That is wedged on the top of there. Maybe even glued a little bit. That looks like a little bit of blue. It is a bit of blue thread lock on the top of the motor there. So I'm just going to prise the black cable off the motor and the red cable. Now, just for orientation purposes, the gun is facing that way. The red terminal was at the back, the black was at the front, and the black cable has come up the front, the red has come up the back. So let's have a look. So the two cables have come up out. There's no pushing around the grip or anything like that. They've literally come directly into the pistol grip and up to where they were and onto a connector. So obviously we don't have to worry about putting any wires round and under the motor or anything like that. Next thing, let's drop out pistol grip screws. So it's two Phillips heads in there. There's the second one. And then I'm going to pop those in and very carefully work them out, because obviously we don't want to damage those. There we go, there's the things out. Now, because this is an ambidextrous selector, I am absolutely certain that we are going to have to, excuse me, remove the selector, and we're going to have to remove this bolt release as well, which is a tiny little Allen key. So I'm going to go and find a tiny little Allen key that will fit it. So I'm going to try a 1.3. That looks like it is the magic number. So I'm just removing what appears to be just a grub screw. It is. I can feel that's moving, the bolt release is moving a little bit. That's, well, that's possibly the, there we go, it's released. There is the very long grub screw. So take that off, keep that to one side. I'm going to very delicately pull that through. I'm looking in the mag well, it's a bit of a funny shape, so I've had to turn it 90 degrees to get it out. And there is a little spring, make sure that stays with its little spring. Now I'm going to have to remove the selectors, I believe. Let's just try and see first. Let's push out this rear body pin. Rear body pin, ooh, is on a clip. That's that. Nice, I like that it's retained. So we've only got that body pin left, supposedly. So I've pushed out that body pin and it came out from the left side to the right on this occasion. Now I'm guessing, yeah, we're gonna have to remove the selectors. That's slightly disappointing, but okay. So I'm just gonna use that again, 1.3 hex head. I'm gonna be really careful here because I'm guessing there is a spring and a ball bearing under here. Oh, it's not as bad as I thought. It's a little plastic notch on the end of a spring. So I'll go through that in a minute. This is shaped, and hopefully you can see there is a flat bit on two sides, and the bottom has got a notch in it as well. So let's switch that for one of those. So I've gone for a small Phillips head. I'm undoing that screw and that has come loose. Again, there is a notch facing forward and a notch in there. So I'm going to put those three together as well as the grub screw, so I can put them on, and then I'm going to move to the other side. So that was the safe position. I'm going to move to the other side again. So the safe is with, hopefully you can see the little notch there facing directly forward. I'm going to remove this side then. Again, tiny little grub screw. Lift it carefully. There is no little pin in there to click and cause a sort of friction or anything or locking into place. However, what there is this is two different shapes. This one is like an oval shape, whereas the other one was more of a circle with some rounded corners. So the safe setting, again, was with this notch here at the back, almost like going this way. So now I should be able to very delicately, he says, famous last words. Well, okay, no, it looks like I've got to remove this assembly in here. Wow, this is fiddly. At this point, I have switched to my precision screwdriver and precision bits for a small Phillips head. There's one sort of retaining L piece. Hopefully you can see that. There we go. Should have checked the other bits. We'll check them as we're going back through. And there is a longer screw at this side. Now I should, there we go, was able to lift that up. So put the screw down first. That was the retaining section from this side, so let's see if I can show you that. That was from there. There is the release, sits in there, and there is a spring as well that sits in this little cup shape here, pointing this way into the circle shape there. You can see there's almost like a pinhole in the bolt release for the spring to sit in. So I'm just going to make sure I locate the spring, put that over there. That's going to be a pain. Now I should be able to safely, yeah, there we go. Now as it comes out, what I'm going to do is I'm going to catch them. I'm going to catch them. Now let's have a look at this. So this is what would be the right hand side, and there is the safety sort of section, and obviously at this side we've got it pushing this selector all the way to the front, and I can see there is a sticker on the inside of the selector there. I don't know if those were on the previous one or not, but we've got our little cam through here that goes through the gearbox, and obviously this is like the VFC style of ambi selectors, so I dare say there will be a little bit of wobble in these selectors as time goes on. So what I'm going to do next is I'm just showing you that tiny bit of wobble there. I'm going to take this gear off, I'm going to place it down. Next I'm going to do is I'm just going to get a flat head. In fact, I'm going to try my thumb first. Now I'm going to need a flat head. I'm going to get a precision flat head, and I'm just going to pry these two gears apart. There we go. So I just lifted it out and it separates, and as you can see, hopefully you can see, there is a D-shaped hole in that, and that cam has got a D-shaped end to it. And then we can remove, so we've got a spring here that hooks into this front hole, loops around this body pin, and then sits underneath this cut-off lever. So I'm going to unscrew that. Keep that pin. I'm going to gently lift that up, and there it is, and it's sat underneath there. So the spring itself, I don't know how clearly we can see that, sits underneath here and hooks up here. But we'll cover that again when we're rebuilding it in a minute. So put those out of the way as well with its little screw. And now we are free to get into the gearbox. Now we've got metal bushings and bearings on the gear at the bottom there. That is probably going to jump out, so I'll take it out anyway for now. Right, so we're going to need probably a Torx 10 on that. And it is a Torx 10. I've noticed that they have sort of radiused where the cylinder is, just to obviously improve longevity of the gearbox. Okay, so we've got a ported cylinder. We're going to split this now and see what it's looked like inside. So, not excesses of grease, a little bit of a build up there of grease just sort of flying about. Get rid of that. But generally looks to be well shimmed. You've got your top board there for the MOSFET. Let's wiggle that loose. Optical based. That is pretty damn impressive. 19/12/2019 that was manufactured. I assume, or designed maybe. But you've got your trigger sensitivity there, that little arc of little sensors there. You've got your gear sensor here. That is an impressive little system. I'll drop that back in. It is just a version 2 gearbox, so it's done probably a couple hundred shots. Piston is looking still nice. Everything is looking nice. There's no evidence of scratching from like poor shimming or anything like that. There looks to be a good good amount of shimming going off in there as well. So it is looking pretty damn solid. I am impressed with that. So I'll just lift out the cylinder and check the compression. There goes the tappet spring. So let's check the compression then. Wow, instantly excellent. So I've got a yellow, I'm guessing POM. Wow, that's good. Literally within a few mil of going past the window. We've got air seal. Let's try it on with the nozzle. Not perfect, as well, you know, you're just not going to get perfect anyway, but there is a lot of resistance there. I'm having to really work hard to get that to compress. So now we've done that, we can begin the arduous process of rebuilding it. So I'm going to hook that on, and I'm going to hook this front loop here onto this pin here. Making sure I've got the cylinder in the correct orientation. And you do put it back together. It does look like they've put some blobs of hot glue down in here and down in here to keep the wiring in place. Make sure that this gets pushed all the way down to keep the tappet plate held down. Make sure that this hole here and the one on the other side go on the lugs that are in the gearbox shell. And when I put the top back on, the right side of the gearbox, make sure that the wires are kept in place and not going to get nipped. So I'm just going to put that back down. Just in case you haven't noticed, the piston is not currently in its correct track. So I'll just hold that up in place. That piston has got 2 runners and a gap in between. That gap should sit on that runner there. Again, nicely lubricated as well. I'm really impressed with that. Just drop that down. Let's try that again. It didn't quite go to plan. The gears jumping about a little bit. And this is just something that happens, that things move about. Make sure that the anti-reversal latch goes in and solid, and it should be pushing up against the gear, so you shouldn't be able to turn it backwards, hence the name anti-reversal latch. So we're just going to drop that in nice and steady, locate it over the gears. Now it might be that you need to just use a small screwdriver just to locate things a little bit better. I'll just put this down. There we go. So for me this time, I got the gears located. The wire had jumped and was just sat on this bit here and was not allowing me to compress the gearbox back shut again, but it's now shut. Checking the trigger pulls, the anti-reversal latch, the air nozzle goes backwards and forwards. Just checking the piston is in the right place. Should have a tiny little bit of play up and down, which means it's definitely on its tracks, and I can see that it's moving backwards and forwards because there's no spring in the back, so I'm happy with that. So now I can put all of the screws back into the casing. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to bring this spring back in, which we know hooks into this hole here, sat on this pin here, like that. So anchors on here, hooks in here. And then this part will, that way. It's not. That's right, getting confused then. So I'm going to hook that on there. I'm going to, in fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep that down. I'm going to hook that back under that bit there. There we go. So our little spring comes underneath here and up here. And then this peg keeps it held down. At this point then, I'm going to bring in the retaining screw for it. And I'm going to screw that back in. There we go. So once it's in, make sure that there is free movement, there's no real effort needed to move it. You know, you shouldn't be able to over tighten this onto it because there should be enough movement, which there is, and I can see that that's free moving, so I'm happy with that. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do the selectors, and then we're going to drop it back into the lower receiver. So here we go. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put this back through. In fact, I'll tell you what I need to do. Pretty sure I need to put that in first. So I'm going to aim. So that just sits underneath there, and there is a hole, I'll show you, little hole there, just sits in this gap here, and I'm going to set it to the safe position. I'm going to drop this back in, and what I'm going to do to try and make my life a little bit easier is I'm going to set that to safe, which is this horizontal, and I'm going to try and get that as sort of the flat part of the D on the top, just to make my life a little bit easier. And just to check that, what I can do is I can bring that back in, and I can just check that that would sit like that, which is the safe position, so I'm happy with that. Put that back for now. Now I'm going to hold my finger on that and flip it over. Next thing I'm going to do is the sort of extended side of this gear is going to drop on. Find that locator, so there it is. I've then got the other selector, which is going to sit that way for safe. Again, it's got a little circle underneath and it just sits in this hole there. So that, we'll go with that set in there. So now comes the particularly tricky part. Push the pin back out of the way, and we've now got to get all of this back in place without losing our positioning. So I'm going to drop that in. Hopefully nothing moves, and that's dropped back in place. I wondered why it wasn't going in then. So I'm just trying to keep as much pressure retained on these. That body pin's winding me up a little bit. And there we go. Oh, beauty. Right, so I can see that that's still in the safe setting. Beautiful. That's still in the safe setting. Beautiful. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to get these selectors back on as a point of urgency to make sure that we don't lose that. So I know that that will only go in one way, and it will just drop back into place like that. And I'm going to secure that down. Changing firing modes. I'm going to hold that down. Now it might be that you want to get a plier on it, but just be gentle with it because you don't want to damage it. Next thing I'm going to do is at this point, actually, I can push that body pin in. I'm sure there'll be something I've forgotten along the way here, but we'll figure it out. So on the underside of the main selector then, there is a little hole, and our spring and little clicker bit, little nib going there, and I'm just going to drop that in place, making sure I don't lose it. It's now safely in place. I'm going to pre-mount my little grub screw on my 1.3. I'm going to start screwing it in. There we go. Until it goes tight. There we go. You want it to be tight, don't over tighten it. You don't want to ruin the threads in there in case you ever want to get back in. So already I can see, thing of beauty, working perfectly. So let's fetch in the other selector, and it's cam. So I'm going to drop that in. Again, you can see, hopefully, there is a ridge around this part as well. And the underside of here is obviously shaped so that it should only go in one way and should only allow it to be rotated one way. So I'm going to put the Phillips head back on. I'm going to screw that down. Perfect. We're then going to bring in our selector. We're going to get the 1.3 bit back on it and the tiny grub screw. They are absolutely tiny. And I'm going to put that back in. Thank God for magnetic bits. Tightened up, and there we go. Oh, yes, happy days. So that is now in place. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to do the bolt release on this side. So I've got the bolt release that will drop in there, and I need the spring as well. So let's have a look at this spring. Which orientation will it go in? Will it go in that way or that way? Now the spring itself is actually thicker at one end and thinner at the other. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the wider end into the actual found it. That was a lucky call. So I've put the wider end in, and it does feel like it's actually like sort of clicked in, wedged in, whatever. And this to just keep it pushed out. So at this point now, I should be able to just gently drop that in there. What I am going to do is I'm going to switch to a little flat head. And I'm going to keep that spring compressed out, well, sort of pushing it. outwards. There we go. So it is compressed in there and it is nicely keeping that pushed out as well, which is good, exactly what we want. Now we can bring in the other little securing pieces and screw those down and in. So the first one is the left side one. I'm just going to use my flathead to help that locate. There we go. So it should, hopefully you can see the contours there. The little bit just dropped in and it followed the contours around here. I'm going to drop its little screw in. Taking one-handed. Right, there we go. So I'm just going to sink that in and tighten that down. And these bits are just helping all of this system to stay located securely in place. The next bit goes in and you can see how it should orientate based on where the hole is and the shape and everything. It's like a jigsaw. It's an exact fit. It would be. Now, if you look at it, I've just taken the screw out there. There is a sort of indentation in one side and it's flat on the other. So the indentation is where the screw should go in and sit flush inside it, just so you're not sort of screwing into the wrong side of it. So I've just mounted the screw on the end of my Phillips head and I'm just going to screw that in. Perfect. Wow. Whew, happy days. Next bit we're going to do is we're going to feed this through. So we had to do a 90-degree angle, get that in, and then we can cycle it round. And it does need to sit, I don't know how well you can see down here, but it does need to hook into, so it can pull down, as you can see there on that system. Once that's in place, we can bring our ultra long grub screw in. We will get our 1.3 bit and we'll start putting it in. Now hopefully it shouldn't have any real resistance, it should just go in without any effort really at all to get in. And I'm just going to keep tightening it in. There we go, perfect. That still moves that, so we've got an ambidextrous bolt release. Perfect. So looking round, so far we are on track. We've not forgot anything yet. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put in the body pin, the trigger body pin, making sure that it comes through nice and smooth. And then just tap it back flush with the body like that. Absolutely happy. And then we can bring the pistol grip back in. Keep looking around and make sure that there's nothing that we've missed yet. Next bit I'm going to need is I'm going to go back to my extension bar on my screwdriver. I'm going to put the Phillips heads in. So as before, they were at this bottom right corner and the top left as you're looking down here. So always go back until you hear the click. I went backwards until I heard the click and then go back forwards again. Tighten down. Same again. Mount that screw. It is helpful having magnetic screwdrivers. Locate it. Listen for the click. And then screw it in. Now, obviously the wires went straight up from the holes that came through and onto their terminals. So we've got red to the back, black at the front. Drop that straight in place. Those motor connectors, just check that the motor freely moves up and down, which it does. That's one side. That's the other side. And then the base plate can come back in now. It will only go on in one orientation. So we need our number 2 hex head bit. Drop that in. I'm going to just initially just put that down with using my fingers, and I'll bring the screwdriver handle in a second. There we go, nice and tight. Getting there, we are getting there. Next thing I can do is I can drop my spring back in. That's in nicely, and I can bring my spring guide back in, and it is just it's a bit of a stiff fit. Let's get my flat head back on. There we go, and then it's a quarter turn clockwise to lock it back in position. So we're now ready for the stock assembly to go back on. So at this point the wiring feeds through the gap there and up and on like that, and then the Dean's connector feeds in and down like that into the stock assembly. Then we bring in this plate that sits perfectly in there. We bring back the hex head bolt that we need, which is a number 3. We tighten that down. That's nice and tight. We can close the stock up. Ow, nip my fingers in the process. That stock can go back on. So that's that part done. We can now bring the upper back in, make sure that we've reseated the hop unit. That just slides in nice and easy, making sure that those springs are going where they should be going, and the rods as well. There we go. I just needed to lift it up a little bit and wiggle it about just to get it in position. So that's now in position. So what I can do is I can bring the body pin back in. Again, this needs some real force to get it back in. Sorted, that body pin's back in, and then the last bit is to put the screws back in. So I'm going to start with the very superficial one on top. It's Torx 15 for these. Are quite big, beefy ones. Again, that top one I believe is superficial, and then the others prove to be really fiddly. And again. There we go. There's one in. That's 2 in. Three in. Last but not least, oops, all done and dusted and fully rebuilt. So I hope you've enjoyed that. I hope you found it useful. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. The build quality's been fantastic. The sort of tolerances have been really good as well. The selectors were far easier to go back together than I have seen sort of VFC employ, I suppose, because quite tight tolerances. So that's been quite an easy one to disassemble for maintenance and repair. So I hope you found that useful. Please do remember to like, comment and subscribe, and I will see you next time. Bye.